Okay, welcome everybody. This is Ronald, the Rules Lawyer, joined by Sean or SwingRipper, who has his own
Yep.
YouTube channel that everyone should subscribe to. Um,
True.
yeah, and we're here to talk about the news announced at Gen Con by Paizo that they're going to be releasing a second edition of Starfinder. I'm so excited. I I ran Starfinder and also had it as a one of the main RPGs run in my middle school after school program, and a lot of the students liked it. A lot of people like science fantasy over just plain fantasy. And they're, I've already texted them the news, and some of them are really excited to hear it. Sean, have you ever played Starfinder?
No, but I believe I got the beginner box of Starfinder 1 in a bundle, but I haven't really looked at it from like one of the humble bundles. But
Oh, okay. Also,
I can't say that's something I ever played.
yeah, and if chat could tell us if any of the sound volumes need to be adjusted, let us know. Okay, but let's just start with this clip from. What the big news too, which I think I am equally excited about, is that it's going to be fully compatible with Pathfinder 2E, and so it's going to be easy as pie to have a have science with your fantasy and fantasy with your sci-fi. Sean has seen Kung Fury. I asked him before
Yeah.
for this, but we're gonna play this for the
I've watched it
uninitiated.
quite a few times. I forced several of my friends to watch it too.
Everybody,
It's a great movie.
everybody who has not seen this must watch it.
It is mandatory.
Yes, yes.
There will be a quiz at the end of the stream.
All right, here we go. But yeah, we can have scenes like this.
Fuck! That's a laser raptor. I thought they went extinct thousands of years ago.
The slow motion, of course.
Who are you?
My name is Barbariana.
All right, if that didn't convince you to watch it, if you haven't watched it yet, I don't know why you're in my stream. Get out. Okay.
Yeah, it's truly.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull up the Starfinder field test. But before we talk about that, what do we overall think about this? And maybe I can also pull up the my news where I posted a video reacting to it, and there's some comments up there that maybe we can talk about too. People left some cool comments on my video. But yeah, what do you while I gather my thoughts, what do you think, Sean?
So I have flipped through it a few times at this point. I really, really like a lot of it. I am concerned about a couple things. My biggest point of concern, I think we'll get to when we get to it. But overall, my thoughts are like 99% positive.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah, and you had not played Starfinder before, but it's something you're interested in, sounds like.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Continue talking while I pull up my own video and,
Absolutely.
narcissistically, do that, and then so we can look at some of the comments
So
to it.
I'm first going to state what was in the playtest document. So first, it says the design goals and some general things of how the document will work. It then goes into concept art, a class where we get a small slice of its early game. We then get some sneak previews at what things might be coming and some new traits for weapons. We get some examples of weapons and a new table. And then we see a couple new creatures that also foreshadow some new spells and a couple new conditions.
Okay. I just realized people are seeing my viewing patterns too on the right, so you get to learn about the Rules Lawyer.
Hey, it's me at the top. I'm there. Look.
Hey,
Look,
yeah,
I think
our
I
own
think I pointed
stream.
up there, you
Oh
can
my
see
god,
it.
this
Yeah.
is like Inception or something. Anyway, all right. Some comments. Top comments. A Dirty Ewok says, I am so goddamn excited for this. I think we all have had the experience of wanting to try a new system with our group, but the group isn't interested in learning a whole new set of rules. Now they already know almost all of the rules for the quote new system. I can't wait to explore space. And I have to say, Starfinder First Edition has a lot of 3-point Pathfinder First Edition
Pathfinder
isms in it.
first isms, yeah.
Yeah, and if I were to put it on some kind of spectrum, it's like 80% of first edition and like actually 85% of first edition and 15% of second edition. It's much closer to first edition. So it's got a lot of that, bonuses, lots of bonuses.
Hyperstack something all the way to the moon. A bit of rock taggy.
Yeah,
stuff.
and you only have one action per turn. That's one standard action per turn, which feels limiting. And
then full round actions and whatever the hell going on Pathfinder 1 action economy. I barely touch it with my 10-foot pole because I'm scared of it biting me.
Oh yeah, and to add spice to the conversation, Sean hates Pathfinder First Edition when I GM'd him in it.
When we played Pathfinder First Edition, I came out of it with an appreciation for D&D 5e for actually making the game better.
Okay, do we have sound effects to use, Sean? Do we have sound effects?
I think we have some in the server if we move like where we're doing the call, but like that's effort.
Oh, okay. All right, another comment. In my experience with Starfinder, the only one who had fun with spaceship combat in my group was the pilot. I hope that a second edition can rework that element of the game to make everybody's rolls feel more impactful than I roll a skill check every 15 to 20 minutes. There was a kind of cool, innovative starship combat system which kind of gave everybody like a desk at the starship. Someone was the science officer, someone else was the pilot, someone else was the captain who motivated others. But it was also steeped in the skill system of Pathfinder 1E / Starfinder 1E. And I don't know, I also found it kind of laborious to go through, and I'm excited to see what might happen. And also building ships, some of my players I have very bright middle schoolers as players, and they're just like, oh yeah, we just max out this or that given how much it costs, and we have the best starship that outclasses everything else of the same tier. And I imagine the math will be tighter on starships themselves, and we'll have something more interesting than, add +5 to your armor, and with things that are more like feats in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Like, I was calling it a skill tree for starships. So I'd
imagine that starships would have maybe 4 or 5 different categories. And then, they'd be upgraded like runes. That's what I'd imagine. That's what I would imagine they would do, given how Pathfinder 2 is kind of designed.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also seen a bit of the Starfinder weapons, and those are very far away from runes. But we'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. A lot of kind of comments that are a little more specific and get to the field test itself.
Yes.
All right, so important thing, and I had to update my thumbnail because I made a mistake that I think other people will make. I called it the Starfinder playtest in my old thumbnail, but it's not a playtest. This is explicitly...
It's not a playtest. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I appreciate them saying it's not a playtest when it's not a playtest, that it's a publicity reel.
Yeah, and maybe some other companies should take notes. But
and I mean, they're literally saying the playtest will be when a playtest book comes out next summer, which will be free.
Mm-hmm.
And also what you're seeing is kind of like to gauge our responses and to see if you like this or that. And so therefore they're going to be putting out some things, and I mean, one could call it maybe a feature alpha. There actually is kind of a dialogue going on. There is a reason why they're doing this besides hype, I would say, but they're just not asking us to actually, see this as a draft. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
They want to see the reaction, and they kind of do at the same time welcome us to use this soldier class in some of our games. So
And then get feedback on how we feel about some mechanics.
yeah, so they're kind of, I think, being transparent that, you know, this is kind of, and they're also saying they also have our Skittermander, which is people who are not familiar with the Starfinder setting. It's the 6-armed, they're the goblins of Starfinder.
Ooh, nice.
But they're a little more. Anyway, I someone who knows them the lore better than I do should describe them. But yeah, they have, you know, this is what we're thinking behind the design of the soldier. So let's go through that. But yeah, it's being pretty. This is what we're trying to do with this. But I have to say, back to the big news. Like, this is just really. This will be a chance to like have planar gates leading to the future, or in Pathfinder, or things in Numeria, which is the nation where the starship landed in the Pathfinder campaign setting. Things breaking out. Like, we might see some cool crossovers. And since they're doing like 3-volume APs and also one-off modules, we might see some crossovers in some of the adventures, which I think would be really fun. Okay. So let's... I don't know if I'm going to read it word for word. I did take some notes.
Yeah.
But let's read the
think
first
that people
section.
Want the word for word, I think they can read it.
Okay. Yeah. They didn't come here to read what they could have read.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to emphasize again, though. Yeah. They said it was subject to change. I already summarized what this paragraph's about. Okay. Field test number 1 is all about getting some of our work-in-progress content into your hands. So we thought, what better way than providing a level 1 to 5 snapshot of one of our classes, the Soldier. This class is the first of 6 that we're going to be releasing in the Starfinder playtest rulebook, and I think that's the number in the core rulebook in first edition Starfinder. And it's our definitive, quote, tanking class, meaning that the Soldier is going to be taking a lot of damage. Of course, just taking a lot of damage isn't a great class feature.
True.
They understand the importance of aggro.
I made a
and
video
being
on
a
this,
tank.
you know?
Yes. So we also decided that soldiers are your default class for using big guns and big weapons. Lots of big guns. So many big guns. And we get the other big reveal is that we have basically a new kind of weapon that can be used in our Pathfinder games called Big Area of Effect Weapons. So we're going to see that. All right. So here's our usual sketch of the iconic, whose name is Obadiah, the iconic soldier. Okay. So we've already... So what I remember from the first edition soldier is that you were the guy who just was able to unlock and use weapons really well. That was kind of their focus. And that was them. Here we have the key attribute as Constitution, which is in Pathfinder 2e, the only class that has that is the Kineticist, which is only now releasing today.
True.
Yep. And am I correct that they, unlike the Kineticist, this soldier will be attacking with, if they use big area of effect weapons, their class DC is keyed off of Constitution, and if it calls for a saving throw, they'll be saving against your class DC. However, your attack rolls basically your trained proficiency plus, in the case of a ranged weapon, your dexterity. Would I be right?
I'm pretty sure that would be correct if they were using the strike action. Well, they're not using the strike action usually. Because of some funny traits on the weapons, which we can get into when we see the weapons.
Okay. All right.
There is one more thing I'd like to note in the proficiency list.
Yes.
Look at their saving throws. They're a martial character that only has expert in 1 save at level 1. Interesting.
Is that unusual?
That is unique. Normally only casters have saving throw type stuff like that.
Of having only 1 expert.
Of only having 1 thing at expert. And casters always have expert will, the other 2 trained. That's true across like all casters.
Okay, again, this is a draft. I don't know. This does seem rough to me because it does double
Yeah.
down on the thing that they're going to have an 18.
No,
in.
but like that makes sense because kineticist also doubles down in the same way. But
But the
kineticist
kineticist
also
has
has
two
expert and
expert.
reflex. Yeah, because it's a martial class
Yeah.
in terms of its save proficiencies. Same with alchemist also has that. Magus as well. So like a lot of the Gishy ones also have this.
That's what I'm
War Priest
pointing
has
out
this.
as rough. Like maybe it's rough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That was the thing in the document that struck me as odd. I'd expect them to also have expert and will.
Mm-hmm.
Thematically.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I would vote for.
Because
okay.
like they're so thematically about their heavy armor, it makes sense that they'd have a weaker reflex save, just like champions.
Mm-hmm. And also important, they're trained in all armor. Is this phrase "all armor" used in Pathfinder, or does it say?
I believe so. I believe that is used for things like fighter and.
It doesn't
champion.
say light, medium, and heavy. I'm asking
I do
because
not-
if there's this is leaving it open for a fourth type.
It is leaving it open for a fourth type. However, I think that is just the verbiage they are using here. I do not think that we can really treat that as like foreshadowing of a fourth armor type because that seems like it would invalidate a lot of previous options. And I think if they were making a change like that, we'd have heard about it in terms of the Pathfinder remaster.
But in Starfinder, there is something called powered armor, which is different from in first edition.
Yeah, but
has its own
Starfinder
rules.
also mentioned that if you have the Starfinder armors, you do have a massive resistance against archaic weapons, which are all the weapons in Pathfinder 2.
Okay, I'm just gonna say that I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay,
And
you know what?
no.
Chat is saying that might be a new type. Okay, so with people talking about the history of Starfinder in chat, I can be convinced. I'm just kind of...
Yeah, none of us are gonna say this is for sure what's going on, but
other people are
because-
mentioning that Fighter and Champion also say all armor.
oh, okay, that's good to know. So,
So it could be a fourth armor type.
So maybe.
I don't think it's likely. Like 10%, you know?
Okay. Yeah. Well, we just haven't been given any example armors yet, so it's premature.
Yeah.
I would have said that if all armor was not used for champion and fighter, then ding ding, maybe something's going on here, but that's not true. So I'll move on.
And then I'd agree that it would be 50-50, and then we'd see the remaster, and then we'd see that they changed fighter.
Okay.
And that would be the giveaway, if it matched the verbiage in the remaster.
Okay. So as you can see, we are deep diving here. We are,
Yes.
we are going to question every word. So this is the content you'll get at the Rules Lawyer channel. And also SwingRipper, who has his own channel. Have you gotten to 1,000 yet, Swing?
I'm at like 910, and at 1K, I can join the
my God.
Paizo partner program. So
That's awesome. Is there something like that we can do as an offer if you reach 1,000 during this stream?
my idea of if I reach 1,000 was I would just spend a bunch of hours building different wrestler kineticists on stream. Because it is all of my brand.
Okay. All right. Back to the field test. All right. This looks like no surprises. No surprises.
I just want to respond to a comment chat that they're surprised that Soldier is only trained in weapons and not expert. I think that actually makes sense because the bonus accuracy in Pathfinder is specifically given to Fighter and Gunslinger. And those two classes do not get other class features to make up for that. Like, they get very, very little other things that just, like, don't fix action economy. That's, like, their main way of providing value to a team. Where, as you look deeper into this class, it has a lot more tricks in its base chassis than the Gunslinger or the Fighter does. So, as such, it makes sense that they don't. Oh, also, I think Soldier does not have wrestling. It is an F-tier class. Garbage. Cannot slap wrestler archetype on it. F's in chat. I don't think that there's that much of a wrestler cheese.
You mean having a wrestling fighting style?
I don't think that there's a wrestler build inside of Soldier with what we're seeing now.
Okay, but again, it's compatible. We can, just...
It's
slap
compatible. You could put wrestler archetype on it, but it's just going to be a C-tier build, and you're just giving up everything that you're trying to do to just
All
wrestle.
right.
Like, it's a gimmick more than anything else, and I
Sean
don't
has
think
an
it's good.
ongoing tier list of, can it wrestle? So this is F tier.
This is C tier. Gunslinger is F tier.
Okay.
But
All
even
right.
that might get bumped up to B.
On that question of it not being expert, I mean, it seems like their shtick is big area of effect weapons, and in general, you want to be careful, I would imagine, with AOE's having a high math. I think we've seen for things that my intuition tells me, and we've also seen that they are more conservative with bumping up your math on AOE's. Okay. And they have a lot of defense power, whereas the gunslinger and the fighter don't in their class budget. Okay, suppressing fire. You have a knack for using powerful weapons to hinder your foes and prevent them from operating at their peak. If you make an attack with a weapon that has the area trait, and then it refers to 2 actions that are going to be described in the equipment section,
Yep.
area fire and auto fire. If it has the area trait, so leaving it open for yet further actions that have the area trait, further weapons, you use it in a manner that suppresses your targets. They get the suppress condition until the start of your next turn, which gives them a -1 circumstance penalty on attack rolls and a -5 foot status penalty to their speeds. I like how this simulates the idea of people in like modern RPGs and science sci-fi, people standing behind cover.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this, Sean?
I really like suppression as an interesting mechanic to make them bulkier. And if you read their design notes, they actually mention because they are only using two-handed weapons because of their class bonuses, they can then know that they aren't going to grapple people to do crowd control that way. They know they aren't going to use a shield to get to the absolute top of AC in the way a champion can. And they know this, so they can then use that power budget to then give it debuffs when they're attacking anyone. So you can just sit there constantly debuffing, doing damage to large groups, suppressing entire crowds, giving it a very unique niche among all the classes that we've seen, which is really incredible. They keep on inventing new design space.
I'll point out that these activities are 2 action activities, and there is no action cost to do this. It's just automatic when you do those things. So if they fail their save, it's just an inherent part of the power of any area effect weapon if you are the soldier. Yeah, -1, we say every +1 matters. This is if you can get that big bulky ogre who probably has a low reflex to fail their save, that's a
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't have to be behind cover. They can just be out in the open, both you and your
because
target.
you're just raining so many bullets down that they're going to have a harder time moving and attacking.
Yeah, it's like an auto diversionary thing.
And that's great.
Yeah.
And
I'll say one thing that's kind of
be
I'll say one thing that's kind of weird is that if someone's trying to bolt and run away from the party, you slow them down by firing at them. Anyway, but
I think it's cool.
I don't know. I'll just point that out. That's a little off. Feels off to me, but whatever. Reasonable minds can differ. Okay, primary target. When you, not anyone else, because remember, anyone else can use the big guns, but you get special... Oh, and this is kind of like what the soldier was in first edition. You had, unlocks on weapons. You could, your class features were, things you can do with your armor that no one else can, or things you can do with your weapon. I don't know what the word was in first edition. Someone in chat will know, but they were unlocks. That's kind of what they did. When you make an attack with an area of effect weapon, you can choose to make a ranged attack roll instead of call for a saving throw against a single creature, either adjacent to the center of the attack or the closest within a cone or line, instead of having them make a save. If 2 or more creatures are equidistant, you can choose which one is your primary. Other creatures within the area save as normal. If you successfully hit your primary target, then the target is suppressed until the start of your next turn. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, why would you do that? Because, if you fail, it's a total whiff. You do 0 damage versus the area of effects, which call for a basic save, and they sustain half damage on a successful save. But this appears to be like, if they have you get to target the defense of your choice, right? Isn't that the main strength of this?
I think you target the main strength of this, and you get to apply suppression. You get to pick a target, and you get to say you are going to be suppressed after this.
If you successfully hit.
If you successfully hit, but don't they also need to? They also need to fail a save to become suppressed. So yeah, it just changes what DC you're targeting for a creature in your area.
Okay, yeah, it's about choosing the defense.
Yeah,
there actually is a fighting style that suppresses something even if they succeed under a save, I think. But here, it looks like if somebody is like in this big, heavy, it seems like a big, bulky type. And has low reflexes, but they're wearing super armor. You can choose to just normally have them be in the area of your effect, and they have to make a saving throw. But if they're the opposite, if they're this nimble guy with light armor, you can just hone in on the person. That's how I see it.
Yep, I agree.
And therefore, this is kind of a bit like how touch AC worked in older editions, where if they were very nimble, they had an advantage against some kinds of attacks, and the attacker would... Anyway, I'll just put that seed out there. I cannot complete that sentence. Okay. Soldier... and chat said gear boosts was the word used in first edition Starfinder. Here are class features that you get at level 1 as a soldier that are relatively universal for a whole bunch of weapons. Okay, soldier fighting styles. You get this at level 1.
Subclass time.
What time?
Subclass time.
Yep, we got a subclass. Armor Storm. Your armor is wait, what's this field note? Anything interesting? It's not just the fighter in space.
Yeah. And that's because you could still play a fighter. You just take the power armor and the weird cyber weapons, and now have all the feats that already affect the math of the game, and they're generic enough to work in Starfinder, so you just slap them in.
So this is basically the Starfinder team really wanted to explore the design space of area weapons in Starfinder. So here's our area weapons class.
Yeah.
Also, interestingly, they are not able to wield shields normally because they are going to probably have these big two-handed weapons.
And even their melee swap thing is all about two-handed melee weapons.
This is actually a change from first edition Starfinder. I don't think you were... the design was as trending you towards two-handers.
But I also don't think Starfinder first had the fighter to compete with, right?
Right.
So if somebody wanted to play a generic martial that just hit things good, fighter exists. So I like that this is not fighter.
All right, I'm going to tell you all that YouTube keeps giving me this big bright blue notification saying now would be a good time to insert ads, and I don't insert ads in my streams.
Kill retention.
Yeah, and so if you want to support Ronald, who, according to the leak in my live stream yesterday, playing the Golden Candelabra, that I make less than minimum wage, doing YouTube content, support me in my endeavor, and also I do pro bono legal work for social justice. Support my Patreon. Okay. Armor Storm. Your armor is like an extension of your skin. Okay, I found that every first paragraph is like flavor text. So
Yes.
Okay, so you never count as being in the area of a ranged weapon you've made an attack with. In addition, you gain resistance equal to half your level against attacks made from suppressed targets. So this is basically for burst, when you do a burst and you're included.
Yeah.
And you get to, I don't know. It's, yeah. So it's basically preserve yourself.
Yeah. And I do not like tanking abilities that are just, you get more protection on yourself because they're just going to walk past you and walk into your allies. So unless they have other ways to deny movement beyond just suppression, I think that Armor Storm will be more of a bait if the GM is playing the creature smart.
We have not seen any feats that key or require a fighting style, and that's kind of an interesting tension in the design. You can't really have 10 fighting styles because that kind of limits how deep you can go into providing ways to enhance that style. So we'll see where we're headed there.
I kind of like the idea that the fighting styles are an extra thing that you get at level 1. They could maybe even introduce feat later that lets you take another fighting style once. Maybe like level 8 or something, because a lot of these could be pretty powerful if you start stacking them. So like, I could see it.
Okay, Bombard. When you attack with an area weapon, you adjust the shot to allow allies to better avoid it. Decrease the DC by 2 for any allies who need to make a save against your area effects. So this was to protect yourself. This is to protect your allies.
Yep.
In addition, enemies who succeed but not critically succeed their save against an area attack are still suppressed until the start of your next turn. So it's kind of like to protect your allies, but you also suppress the enemy more. I accept it. I just find it a little thematically hard to imagine what you're exactly doing to have both of those effects. I'm just gonna say that.
You're just really good at aiming. You're chaotic weapon fire.
I guess. Or you're like that guy in the Aliens movie who like put that knife between that guy's fingers. You can just go. I mean, you're doing like this big spray, but you're like. Anyway, it's a little weird to me. I think of Bombard as being a bit more damaging your allies.
Let's
do
big damage.
Yeah.
Who cares who gets in the way? Like, I think thematically, this one should be named something else. And Bombard should be a damage-heavy fighting style.
Sarkomir makes a good point. It gives you permission to shoot your allies. Well,
you know? When you put it that way.
Okay, close quarters. When you successfully make a strike with a two-handed, not one-handed, two-handed melee weapon, you suppress the target until the start of your next turn. In addition, you gain the punitive strike reaction. So it's kind of like a mini stun effect. It's like, bong.
Punitive strike is attack of opportunity, but disrupts movement instead of manipulates.
Right, and it does not trigger on a ranged attack.
And I think that, but it would still trigger on a reload, because reload is still interact, and that's manipulate.
Right.
So that's a little interesting. Because that means, and I'm going to just use the example of a bow, because that's something we have rules for. Because they're a reload 0 weapon, they have to reload as they're firing, and the action of reload is still an interact. So it can effectively cancel out a bow. I think. I don't know if that would actually cost the action, because it's technically a free action to load it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're canceling.
There's been, I've been part of threads that argue over that. I say it's an interact action as a free action.
Yeah. So I think that's a free interact followed by a strike, like technically. But it's all part of one strike action in other ways because of,
Platonic Liquid points out, I thought suppression fire hampering enemies while not dealing much damage was a somewhat common reoccurring design. I see the idea of, like, yeah, you're going to do less damage than a fireball with it.
Yeah.
It's about debuffing too. I see that, but I'm not sure about... Anyway, I'll just let the comments stand. Okay, next is Walking Armory. You bring the heaviest armor and largest weapons to bear. So what this does is... this means you don't have to you can tank your strength, but still benefit from heavy armor, and your bulk is your ability to carry things can be bigger than other characters. And we're gonna see. I think this is a soft way to discourage other classes from using martial area weapons. Is that bulk 3? I've never actually seen bulk like prevent a martial from doing something so far.
Tower shield. It stopped a few of my builds.
Oh, okay. But maybe this number's
Tower
high
shielding
enough that it
4 bulk
will.
is massive. 3 bulk adds up quick.
Yeah. So
like,
I think they're...
If you consider a full plate martial as 4 bulk from armor, they have to get 2 bulk from a 2-hand weapon. Then if they want to use a gun as well, that's all 9 of their bulk done. They don't have any room for adventuring equipment anymore.
Yeah. All right. So
that's rough.
I do think, and I think it's justified to have some kind of soft way to discourage other people from using big weapons. Though they could still find a way to make their build so that they can.
Yes.
With a
and
high
you can
strength.
take something like
you
hefty
can't
hauler from background even. Like
right. But
if
you want to be like
town,
if you want to be a monk who's like into dex and low strength, you're gonna have a hard time here with a rotor laser.
Not really, because what equipment does a monk need?
That's true.
So the monk can just have that as their one equipment and just run around with the big gun that's as large as them and just start like flying with it down, you know?
All right.
I think it has...
I have to say the idea of a sci-fi monk is kind of a cool concept.
It's so cool.
And being in power armor. Ooh, okay. I'm getting tingly feelings just thinking about it. Okay.
I think
it's
that a monk
important
in a sci-fi setting that's in touch with their soul and that... I don't know, it's sick. I like fantasy sci-fi stuff. I know some people don't, but to them I raised them a Star Wars. So
and
cheers.
Since Sean, you are my window to the young people these days. I just think that younger folk are just not. They don't have as much of a problem mixing chocolate with peanut butter.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because have you considered how cool it is?
It's just cool.
I don't want laser guns in my fantasy setting. Where meanwhile, I'm hearing, you're telling me I can have laser guns with my nuclear-powered motorcycles that came my adventure path?
Yep. And it goes both ways.
Already,
it goes both ways. There's a freaking, if I can find it in the Starship Operations Manual, there's a weapon that shoots a planet.
Yo!
Because magic is in this campaign setting. Like, you can just summon a planetoid and a planet and fire it. Like, you can't do that in pure sci-fi. And anyway, all you grognards, need to get with it.
Like, you can flavor your spells as an orbital strike, with the new, things, have you summon down comets, playing like a space-themed wizard would go hard.
I think it's, before we move on, I do want to jump to what the key activity is. It's important to understanding.
Yeah.
Hold on. So, if a weapon has the area trait, it can only fire using the area fire action. I didn't notice that before now. So, you cannot make a strike with it.
They're not striking, so they don't need dex.
Okay. So
they're ranged attacks that rely on con, which is a design we've seen before at this point.
Right.
Today.
So, these area ones you cannot actually strike with, and that class feature to target someone's AC is something only this class can do. Oh, okay. If it's automatic, you still have the option of doing a normal strike.
Yeah.
Okay. So area fire.
Automatic says that it just gives you another activity, which is also class DC based. So if you're given a two-handed automatic weapon, they're then really good against single targets. So they might want to swap between 2 guns.
Yeah. Yep. All right. You target each creature in the area with a range equal to the weapon's range increment. I'm confused. Why is it called a range increment? It just seems like you just have a max range. Anyway.
Well, I assume that there will be other feats that care about range increment for different reasons.
Okay.
And they're leaving the design space open of now you can strike with your things as a feat or whatever.
Okay. Or in the case of a burst, you target everyone in the designated radius of the explosion.
That can be anywhere within the first range increment.
Right. For burst, you can position the center point. Oh, you just said that. Any creatures in the area must do a basic reflex save against your class DC, plus the tracking value of the weapon. Oh, that's right.
Tracking is the equivalent of a potency rune.
So something I said in a forum is actually not correct. You can actually enhance the DC with the tracking value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This damage is area damage, important against swarms and other things that have weakness to area damage. Creatures that critically fail the save are subject to effects that occur on a critical hit with this weapon, including the weapon's critical specialization effect. And in the case, we have a couple of examples. The laser. They must succeed at a fortitude save or be dazzled until the start of your next turn. Projectile. They are make a save or are slowed 1 until the end of your next turn.
Yep.
I don't know whether... Do you need to have... Wait, let's look at the level 5 mastery. I'm just wondering if you can do that at level 1. Oh, it says you gain access to the critical specialization effects for weapons with the area or automatic traits. So you are only able to do those things at level 5, which is in keeping with Pathfinder 2E.
With other Pathfinder 2 things.
Yeah. Okay, the other kind of area weapon is automatic fire. Actually, sorry, they are 2 exclusive categories, which may be a little confusing, I must say, because you also have area as a trait of automatic fire. So maybe they should be called burst. I don't know, but okay. Automatic fire.
Area, the thematics is you're shooting out an explosion or having it be basically blow a massive shotgun blast. Mm-hmm. Where automatic is you now have a minigun, so slightly different theme.
Okay, I just don't know if there's a word to avoid confusion, and I just realized burst would cause its own confusion, so I don't have an answer. Automatic fire. You hit each creature in a cone in a range equal to half its range increment. And we'll see that these weapons have, they say, here, automatic. Rotolaser. They have 30 feet, 40 feet. So you can do regular strikes with a range increment of 30 or 40. And you can do cones of 15 feet or 20 feet.
Oh, and notice, the tactical one is where you get the range increase. They're the same weapon. That's like So the Starfinder weapons actually will get, like, better in a lot of their traits as you get the new models.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so that's different.
We should comment on how they're not doing runes. We should have a discussion about that.
We are going to discuss that once we get to the archaic trait.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that, definitely. That's a big...
We have so much to yell about involving the archaic trait.
Okay, the rest of this reads like area fire. Basically, this just is a different way of determining the area and also the fact that you can make a normal strike with it.
And also it talks about the capacity of the weapon.
Oh, yes.
So that way reloading's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I assume the area fire things will be much higher damage.
Okay.
Let me quickly look at the weapon chart.
So they... Rotolasers have 10 charges or 20 charges. So you would fire one shot with 1 charge or do an area effect with 5 charges here.
Yeah, and where the stellar cannons, like the cannons, they actually have more projectiles inside the single clip. So you can last in a longer fight by just launching out these.
And the way
That's really interesting.
The way I understand it is that... you reload not single shots, you reload magazines in the case of projectiles.
Because with magazines, you need to load 1 action takeout, 1 action to get the new magazine, 1 action to slot it in. So they can be split up across turns, but it's 3 actions total to swap a magazine. At least that's how it works in Pathfinder.
But it says reload 1.
Which also means that you then need to use a reload 1 to then click into the next bullet.
Is that what it
So
means?
there's a lot of action tags here.
I'm not so sure.
That's what capacity meant in Pathfinder terms, I'm pretty sure. Capacity, PF2E, I'll double check. Capacity trait. Capacity is always... Weapons that have the capacity trait have multiple barrels or chambers capable of containing a bolt or round of ammunition. Blah, blah. Accompanied by number indicating number of barrels. After the weapon is fired, you can select the next loaded barrel or chamber as an interact action that doesn't require free hand.
So that's an action.
So that's basically just like for like the slide pistol, it has capacity 5, so you can do without an open offhand that many times. I'm not sure how capacity will matter here. Seems strange to me.
So I know you just read it, but it says you gotta do an interact action, capital I, in order to...
Capital I, interact, yes.
In order to move to the next one that's already,
Yes.
quote unquote, in your...
In
Quote unquote, loaded
the gun,
in the
yeah.
capacity. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Beyond level 1, first they get a first level class feat like martial classes.
It was repeating that would let them automatically load, then I have to swap out magazines. I just forgot my gun traits because I don't play that many gunslingers.
Skill feats are normal. Level 3, fearsome bulwark. Your sheer mass terrifies foes. You can use your con mod instead of charisma mod on intimidation checks.
I've seen so much discourse around that. So much discourse.
What?
Around
Like-
fearsome bulwark. Like,
Yeah.
swapping intimidation to use a stat that isn't charisma? Heresy. Why doesn't Barbarian get it? You know? That's what I've been seeing.
Oh, okay. Okay, skill increases, no surprises, general feats, ancestry feats. Okay, level 5 soldier weapon mastery. Your proficiency with simple and martial weapons becomes expert. You gain access to the critical specialization effects for weapons only with the area or automatic traits. Okay, soldier feats, first level, pin down. One action. If your last action was an attack with an area weapon, select one creature that was in the area of effect of your prior attack. So that really means it has to be an area attack, actually. That creature must make a save against your attack again. And this does 0 damage, but it can inflict the suppressed condition on the target who previously saved against it. Okay. So you spent 2 actions on your area attack, and then if you have an action left, you have another opportunity to make one person suppressed. Okay. Quick swap, a reaction. If you're, wielding a 2-handed weapon and a creature moves adjacent to you, they need to clarify whether they enter your adjacency or... You stow your current weapon and draw another 2-handed weapon. Oh, that's cool. You're just like the moment you enter, which synergizes with punitive strike. Oh,
Yes.
no, those are 2
But
reactions.
they're 2 competing reactions. However, I assume that they'll have something that gives them extra reactions because they have a subclass that gives them a reaction. And most classes that start with a reaction have some way to cheat on 1 reaction per turn. So I would assume that we'd see some way to cheat on reactions.
Yeah, like
because
level
that's
6
pretty
or
common.
level 10. If you have multiple sets of arms, you can instead choose a set to become active. And there's a rule somewhere, multi-armed characters.
Yep.
You can have more than 2 hands, like Kasathas. Those are the people with the big cone brain. And also the Skittermanders have 6 arms as well. But only 2 of your limbs are active and can perform actions. And it says performing actions with multiple pairs of arms concurrently is a challenge and cannot be done without intensive training. So not by default, but not ruled out. I assume this will be high-level ancestry feats, I guess.
Yeah, I assume this will be like a level 17 ancestry feat type deal.
And okay, we all want that Skittermander with 3 2-handed big guns.
I want a 2-handed big gun, 2 potion hands, and then 2 agile weapons.
Okay. Making one pair of hands, changing which pair of hands is active, it uses the switch active hands action, which is an interact action. I don't know why they just gave a new name to something which they just say is an interact action. I don't know what that is.
I think that switch sets of hands, that makes sense because now they're defining that action. And that way they can then have feats in the future that talk about switching arms, and now they don't need to define it every time.
Yeah, like maybe it's a free action for you in some.
And I think it's just
situations.
template awkwardly here, simply because this is just like a foreshadowing type deal.
Yeah, honestly, I would think this just needs to add the manipulate trait, unless there's something I'm missing. Okay,
Yeah.
back to hand.
I
the
think
feats.
interact comes with manipulate normally.
Yeah, I just don't know why you would, just have one capital letter ability, just say, oh, it's like this other one. Anyway.
Yeah.
Ready, reload, one action.
But we also have draw, which is also an capital I interact. So it's kind of in the same manner.
Draw is a defined action?
No, which is the issue. But it's kind of like that in terms of how it's being defined here.
Okay.
So
Moving
it's
on.
probably going to be just like another thing added to that table.
Okay. Ready, reload, one action. You're wielding a two-handed ranged weapon with a reload of 2 or more, and your last action this turn was an attack action that consumed ammo from the weapon. So which ones? None of these have
We have
reload
not
of
seen
2
any
or
with
more.
reload 2. We don't know
So-
what this is going to be used with yet.
Yeah, and I know in Starfinder First Edition there were weapons that were kind of in a bigger class that were like,
Yeah.
you had the sniper rifles, you had the pistols, then you had I forget what they were called. They were just the bigger guns. So I guess this would be that.
Mm-hmm.
Reloading a weapon can be a delicate process, but you've mastered how to do so in the middle of combat, beginning the process while still in the act of firing your weapon. You interact and can reload your weapon twice. So
Sure.
if you have this is a huge boon for apparently if it has
Yeah.
reload 2, that really sucks normally. You would do either a strike if it's an automatic weapon and then spend the rest of your turn getting that. I imagine this would be like I don't know. But you get to turn this into reload 1, and for a single action, you do twice as much. This will like you multiplied your efficiency by 4. It's kind of wild. Okay, but we have to see what they're actually talking about to fully understand that. Warning shot. When you roll initiative as a free action, you are wielding a weapon. If you're wielding a area or automatic weapon, you unleash a quick volley with your weapon, forcing advancing foes to cower on approach. Make an area fire or automatic fire with your weapon. Creatures in the area take no damage, but must still attempt to save to avoid being suppressed. So this will cost you some of your ammo.
Yeah, and this costs you the ammo in the gun. I'm now realizing why they have capacity. Because that way the area weapons, they only take one of their ammunition per time they do their area burst. Where the automatics takes half the remaining, or half the capacity.
Yeah.
So that means an automatic weapon can normal strike, but you only get 2 areas per combat.
Yeah, that's a big disadvantage. They can't really spam the area ones.
Yeah, but they still have that normal strike option in a way that the other gun wouldn't.
Right.
So if you want to be a more dexterity one that was like a sharpshooter, then going for one of the what was the name of it? One of the ones that would let you actually do the strikes might be better.
Automatic.
Because that way you can actually use the...
Okay. Okay. Second level feats. Menacing laughter. Single action. Auditory. Your laughter or war cry can somehow be heard over the din of your weapon's fire. You attempt intimidation checks to demoralize each creature within 30 feet who you suppressed this turn. Can you suppress allies who fail are suppressed apparently also creatures. Okay.
Yep. Cool.
So you laugh at your allies. The ones you bombarded. As a
Yep.
bombard fighting style. Okay, second wind reaction. When you take damage, you can only do this once per hour. You immediately get 1d8 plus 4 temporary hit points that last for 10 minutes. And this scales up at 6th level, 10th level, every 4 levels. Okay, steady up.
That's kind of interesting, because you know what you could do then?
What?
The temporary hit points last for 10 minutes. So there is a world where pre-fight you say, okay, hit me. Thank you. And then you run in.
Yeah.
You slap the courage into them to save the reaction.
If it's a tough fight, you're going to be taking damage anyway. But it does cost your reaction, I guess.
So you could save the reaction that way. And I think that's funny.
Oh, okay.
It
I
is
guess
kind
so.
of an exploit, though. I think it should last 1 minute, personally.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Steady up, 1 action if you're wielding a weapon with the area or automatic trait. You brace yourself to better fire your weapon and not be easily moved. Until the start of your next turn, your next area fire or automatic fire takes 1 action instead of 2, and if you would be moved 10 feet or less by a forced movement effect, you don't move at all. Taking a later move action negates this effect. So basically, it seems like the real effect, it's not on your action economy, it's in this not being moved.
Yeah. But it still makes that you need to fire that turn in order to get the full value. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, it doesn't really...
As long as you don't
Yeah,
move.
okay, so it's until you next move that you will have that bonus of not being moved by forced movement.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing can shove you at that point.
Yeah, which is cool if you're blocking a door.
Mm-hmm.
Like in our Golden Candelabra game yesterday.
And I agree with Shadow Trooper that TF2 Heavy was one of the first things I thought of when reading this. Ron, do you know about the Team Fortress 2 Heavy?
I don't even know what that is.
Well, I tried, chat. I tried.
I apologize. I'm not going to be reading. I'm only reading like 5% of comments. Sean's much better at following chat than I am while streaming.
I'm more just making sure we don't miss some interaction. And that's why I'm glancing at chat.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah.
I definitely read super chats, however. All right. 4th level. Overwhelming Assault. You're able to overcome the defenses of suppressed foes with repeated attacks. Your multiple attack penalty for attacks against suppressed targets is -4 on your second attack instead of -5, and -9 on your third or subsequent attack instead of -10. This is smaller with an agile weapon. However, I think this is a misprint. This should be -7, right?
I agree. Yeah, it should be at least -7.
Yeah, because otherwise it gives no benefit on that for that agile weapon there. Okay.
Yeah.
This only helps with automatic weapons because that's what you do a strike with.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Suppressed targets...
actually, Overwhelming Assault, because, if you're using a two-handed weapon with that one, it just says suppressed targets. It doesn't say ranged attacks anywhere there, so therefore you could get reduced multi-attack penalty on your greatsword going at them.
Oh, that's true. And also we had before I was just wondering how would the third attack trigger. First of all, there could be more than one soldier in the group, and but also,
and you can suppress somebody by hitting them in close quarters with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you just beat him down. Punishing salvo.
And I could also see like somebody doing some weird dual wielding cheese to try and abuse that and something.
One action and your previous last action this turn. Oh, they're clarifying. They're saying this turn. Thank you, Paizo, for being clear. Was a primary target strike. Capital S strike. I thought primary target only procs when you do an area effect. When you make an attack
primary target does
with an
call
area
to
of
make a
effect
strike.
weapon.
Choose to make a ranged attack roll against a single creature. So One has capital S strike, the other doesn't. Templating error, whatever. Playtest, not even a playtest document, whatever. They're going to be errors.
Yeah. All right, we found it. You make a second strike against your primary target, ignoring the effect of the unwieldy trait, and that's a trait on the weapons that they're large and awkward.
And they can't make several attacks in a turn, and they can't be used for reaction attacks.
Right.
Such as punitive strike. Thank you.
But punishing salvo lets you make a second attack. Second strike. And it's not a new area attack and is instead treated as just a single strike against a target made using the primary target rules. So as a chance of suppressing them, right? Even if it's unwieldy. Okay. All right. Is this only useful if you have an unwieldy weapon?
This straight, instead of just straight, it's only good if you have unwieldy.
For this,
but it seems like a lot of them are going to be
you could
unwieldy.
suppress them. This has the effect of making them a primary.
Yeah.
Okay. Widen area. This is kind of like our widen spell meta magic.
Yeah.
So if it's a burst, you get to increase the radius by 5 feet if it has a radius of at least 10 feet. And if it's a cone or line, if it's 15 feet length or smaller, you add 5 feet. Otherwise, you add 10 feet. Okay, field note, our first play test. Skimming. So it's kind of design thoughts on the soldier's role. They found that in their first play test, they could really take a beating.
Yeah, I believe it.
Okay. One example.
Heavy armor, possibly getting resistance, and also key stat con would do that.
After the current playtest, the Starfinder team is curious to see if the soldier is too durable for a class. They're looking at its overall role in combat beyond just soaking damage and want to see if anything is missing from the play experience. The focus on ranged area weapons is the intended niche here, while also giving parties something of an anvil to center their combats on. Okay, feel free to whip soldier and give it a test. Okay.
Yep.
New equipment. Here we go. First, I guess I want to talk about the levels here. This is like it says specifically that weapons with the tech trait and the analog trait do not take runes, and so they advance differently. You have the same name, laser pistol.
They're basically treated like specific magic items all the way down.
Right, and this is how first edition Starfinder presented weapons. They all had levels. The innovation beyond what had previously existed in first edition Pathfinder was that everything had levels now. And you knew as the GM that this is a settlement, or that the party actually just said the party can only find items of their level or their level +1. So it limited their shopping opportunities. But yeah, there's laser pistol commercial, laser pistol tactical. We see that their advancement is exactly the same as how Pathfinder runes, weapon runes, fundamental weapon runes work. At level 2, they get a tracking +1, which means that attack rolls get that item bonus to their value, and the area fire and automatic fire activities also add that value.
And Ron, I should mention that the property runes are not entirely gone because you can look at the usage and upgrades rules.
Oh, cool.
So with upgrades, you'll be able to get customized upgrades for your weapons, and each weapon can take a certain amount of upgrades. And you can look at the table and you can see the upgrades as like how many they could have, and I assume those will be taking the place of property runes.
Okay. And
if they want to have a gun that's more powerful, they can then decrease the amount of upgrades you can put on it.
Okay, and yeah, that becomes part of the why you would choose one weapon over the other. And this is also from Starfinder First Edition. You had weapons have upgrade slots, and armor would have upgrade slots, and androids would have the android ancestry would have its upgrade slot in its neck.
Jeez.
But yeah, it played into the sci-fi idea of having actual physical things, not magic, actually enhancing.
Not just like runes that you're placing onto your weapon, so that your weapon has 17 runes on it and therefore does every damage type in the game.
I enjoy the flavor over runes.
Yeah, I do as well.
It does mean trading in your old thing for the new one, but yeah.
I mean, that's also part of the fantasy of sci-fi. And they did talk about they were going to have a variant rule when there's like a full play test for groups that want to upgrade a single weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like the style of buy new weapons because, like, in Pathfinder 2nd, I feel like, well, I don't think this is getting fully solved because there are still numerical bonuses for getting the next hottest weapon. But it's really, really hard to keep a backup weapon, keep it ruined up, because there's just not that much gold given to your characters.
I think also there's just less of my father's sword when it comes to sci-fi genre.
When it comes to sci-fi genres, yeah.
Yeah. So you don't really, things are just mutable.
And then if a character wants to, they can then upgrade their thing across the ranks. And
who doesn't just, like, we don't get sentimental feelings when we replace our computer, At least I don't.
Not really. Sometimes you do, but
Okay, and and to expand on that point, my other point, level 4 is when they get the striking rune, quote unquote.
Yep.
Which is when they get the second die of damage. That's how all of these are working, and that's the levels. And if you look at the pricing, they add 350 credits for the +1 rune, quote unquote.
Yep.
And then 650. I do wonder, however, whether that's going to just add confusion to have credits be 10 times as big. If we're going to be freely mixing the two.
Credits are a silver each.
Yeah. I mean, and arguably Pathfinder 2E uses the silver system, but very few people talk in terms of silver after initial shopping, I find.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, like, I also think that, like, for Starfinder, the prices being these big, weird numbers kind of fits the thematics of the game.
It does. It does. And having an item cost 1 million credits, like...
Yeah, that's part of the fantasy,
Yeah. Also, ammo, I think it says at one point ammo is 1 credit per... projectile or something, or charge. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Updated equipment rules. What follows are some of the new mechanics associated with Starfinder weapons. We're going to get some new initials. First edition Starfinder had these too. A is for acid, C is for cold, E electricity, F is fire, M for mental. I don't think Starfinder first has mental. PO for poison, SO for sonic. We already went over multi-armed characters. Capacity. Because it's easy to get confused here, and I want to read it again, I'm going to read it again. Most weapons take batteries or have magazines. So these are 2 types of ammo to allow for multiple shots. However, from the clarification Sean gave, you still need to do the reload action. All of these have reload 1 in the table. The capacity of a weapon indicates how much ammunition it can hold. Charges represent battery-powered weapons, and the highest capacity battery it can hold. Oh, that's weird. So if it says 5 charges, you cannot plug in a battery with more charges. Huh.
Interesting. I'm probably not going to bother tracking any of that, but it's cool that it's there for the people that do want to.
Yeah. Depending on the
If one
weapon.
plays survivalist type game, I'm happy that there are rules for that type of thing.
Many flame weapons, this is also from first edition, instead utilize petrol, which is sold in tanks, and they function like batteries. Okay, so batteries with petrol underneath battery. Most projectile weapons use magazines, which can hold a maximum number of cartridges. Depending on the weapon, cartridges could be bolts, darts, flechettes, rounds, or other ammo. Most projectile weapons use rounds, while most injection weapons use darts. In Starfinder, there's this divide between projectile weapons and energy weapons. There's projectile weapons, and then there was like fire weapons and acid weapons, petrol weapons. Cartridges are purchased individually at a cost of 1 cartridge per credit. So one standard price. There's not Uber cartridges. Cartridges, apparently.
Cartridge is a cartridge is a cartridge. Yeah.
Note that this is separate from the capacity trait presented in Guns and Gears. So they're saying don't read anything from Guns and Gears.
Well.
So maybe one reload does change the whole magazine.
Maybe.
And you don't have to reload between shots.
All
right, they need to have a reload entry or a clarification, because it doesn't seem broken to... you are, after all, doing 2 action activities a lot.
Yeah.
That would match the Starfinder experience, I think. I think someone who remembers better than me right now, Starfinder First Edition, should say in chat, but I don't think you had to do any reloading when you still had ammo in your magazine.
Also, I like how there are now 2-handed automatic weapons for like range combat. Because I'm noticing the automatic weapons actually are automatic. You can fire them as much as you want. I think it'd be against the fantasy of automatic weapons needing to spend an action to reload.
Right. Yes. So
I'm now only 98% happy with this.
Wait, with automatic weapons acting like automatic weapons?
No, with the templating. The templating is knocking it down another percentage. It's down to 98.
Oh, because confusion with capacity. Yeah. Especially if we're going to make them compatible with each other, right?
Yeah, so they should pick a different name. 98% now. That's my other complaint.
Usage. This indicates how much ammo is consumed with each strike, for strikes only. Anytime the weapon is fired, its ammo is lowered by the number indicated. So what does it mean for area weapons? Like, you don't strike with area weapons. So anyway, the little confusion there.
Area weapons have their own, area fire has its own thing about how it consumes ammunition. It consumes 1 piece of the ammo. Where the automatic fire weapons, when you're doing their areas, it takes half the capacity of the weapon.
Okay.
Which is interesting, because that means you'd be needing to reload a lot more if you're using a automatic.
Upgrades. Weapons can be customized with upgrades, which include technological weapon accessories and hybrid weapon fusions. This indicates how many upgrades a weapon can utilize. Okay, since you're not familiar with Starfinder, and I assume many viewers aren't, there's a lot of rules. Okay, this is kind of off topic, but there's ways to enhance yourself. You can get cybernetic enhancements. You can get your heart replaced with an undead heart. You can just lots of ways to modify yourself too, in addition to your gear. And I look forward to seeing that kind of stuff. Okay, relevant weapon traits. Now this is, I'm gonna say, analog versus archaic versus tech is very... I feel like there needs to be a visualization of the separation of these, because we're going to read through these, and I think it's not as easy to parse. Okay, here we go. Analog. This weapon eschews advanced electronics, computer systems, and electric power sources, but was manufactured and calibrated using advanced technology. This weapon is immune to abilities that target technology. So
it's just really, really well made.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if you can have analog things that have the tech trait. In this case, you don't see them together. So
I think these are completely distinct categories.
okay. So I'm not sure, I would prefer that stick to their, Pathfinder 2E's use of traits to be clear, because when you say target technology,
I mean, that is a weapon trait. And there are going to be effects that target technology specifically as a targeting thing, like the glitch condition later in the book.
yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
that is an actual like thing that happens.
But okay,
in the game.
but already in my
It's
brain
like
I'm
using fire spells
wondering
underwater.
like this is just things that don't use technology, I'm thinking in my brain. But apparently that's different from archaic. So what is the difference between
futuristic weapons that don't have inbuilt computer systems?
Okay, so they need that to be clearer here. This just is defining it by what it's not, and I was a little confused when I read.
Oh yeah, but it says that's calibrated using advanced technology created with the advanced tech. Where the archaic weapons, they're defined by they're just
if they had switched
thrown
the
together by
phrases,
some primitives.
Okay, all right, thank you. That you actually out-lawyered me there. You're correct. Weapon runes, as found in Pathfinder, do not function on this weapon unless this weapon also has the archaic trait. So you see the confusion. See? So you can have advanced technology weapons that are also analog, so not affected by things that affect technology, and they weapon runes don't affect these unless they also happen to have the archaic trait. It's a concept salad. While this use word of the word analog is not technically correct when referring to technology, use of the term in this way has become common throughout the Pact Worlds.
Yeah.
Okay. Archaic.
And also, I like how people in chat are talking about how like analog is stuff like a modern rifle, where archaic would mean a crossbow.
Okay.
Because like a modern rifle is made using our advanced technology, properly weighed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. All right. That
where
helps.
A crossbow is a crossbow.
Thank you. That's a good point.
And thank you, Galactic Fish in chat, for that one.
Yeah, and I think this would help in comprehension to not say eschew and man. Give an example. That'll help.
Yeah, and I think that after you read that trait, you could then go to the weapon table and then see examples. So it's again, that's not finished. That is causing issues. I'm gonna defend it here. Like it made sense to me personally.
Okay, that's because you're part of that new generation that like learns words quickly. I have my archaic ways of thinking. Okay.
Well, and also I see a lot of people throw around terms like analog because I am studying computer engineering. So when I hear analog, I think of like older computer systems. Or like things that are not having any onboard computing power. Just things that are, I flip this switch, the light turns on.
Okay.
Where, as opposed to digital, which is binary and all that stuff.
All right.
Analogs are more physical in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And
they don't
it's
have a
technically
computer.
Incorrect, so I like that it says that's technically incorrect, but the way they're using the term is pretty close enough to the point where I understood what they were going for. Okay. It's close enough to the technical definition that I can see how it would evolve that way as slang in the world.
All right, archaic. I saw you and Dom will raise a good point in our personal chat. I'm going to say this seems like it'll be a problem.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. This weapon is crafted using traditional methods and materials, but is not suitable for striking modern armor. All weapons from Pathfinder 2nd Edition have the archaic trait. So this includes guns from Guns and Gears.
Because they're not calibrated to the same category a modern rifle is.
Okay. Though, we just said rifles were our example of analog. So, again, my brain's hurting here.
However, a flint musket is a little different than a perfectly balanced modern rifle.
I thought there's modern rifles in Guns and Gears. Am I wrong?
In Guns and Gears, the most modern thing they have is the arquebus, which is Spanish conquistador times.
Which in first edition would have been called early firearms.
Yes.
Okay. All weapons...
But arquebus is like the most advanced we have in Guns and Gears.
All weapons from When a creature with non-archaic armor takes damage from an archaic weapon, that creature gains resistance 10 against the attack. So I assume just the physical part of the attack, like not a flaming rune. Or...
Yeah. And that's talking about non-archaic armor. So I could see like the archaic weapons being good, like PvE style weapons, to use a video gaming term, where very good against like the environmental threats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
'Cause-
And I'm just wondering, does this mean like... Anyway, it just seems like it's going to be hard to combine the genres to have things in the same campaign. Because, you know, you're going to need to price... For it to be balanced, you'll need to price the modern... The technological armor much higher.
I would argue that a moderately built archaic weapon should just remove the archaic trait. Like for because, you know, there's like low grade, high grade weaponry. Like if you look at silver weapons in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And this would just like make what metal your thing's made of that much more. They have standard grade. And I think that standard grade, they should drop the archaic trait. Because at that point, they are well made.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is at the point where they could start doing work into the power armors.
But I'm going to stand up for swordsmen and the fact that they can cut your head off. Like,
I agree. And that is where my other 1% of complaints come from, is that and how that is worded. I think that, like, it should be only non-magical weapons with the archaic trait have that heavy resistance. Or it should be halved.
I don't know if
it's
it
magic
adds
weapon.
anything.
Like, I don't think it really...
No,
Yeah,
I'm talking
it
about this. This rule, the archaic rule.
Yeah, that's what I'm
adding
talking about
anything.
too. Because, like, I don't think it... Like, I see what they're going for in the fiction, but, like, I think there are other ways to make the sci-fi power armor interesting than nullifying all of the other games like weaponry for the sci-fi game.
Yeah, because Amiri, she's going to be useless against, you know, that envoy with, like,
Yeah.
you know, modern clothing
Yeah.
that has,
like,
you know, a computer sensor on it. It's weird.
I don't know. I do not like that it's just a flat resistance 10 as well. Like, I think that at minimum, the resistance should be halved against magical weapons, and then possibly completely fall away against, like, standard or high-grade weapons.
Yeah, and I ask what it adds because it just seems just more complexity for... Doesn't...
I mean, it thematically adds that, look at how advanced the new weapons are compared to the old ones. But, I don't know. I'm not personally invested in that type of storyline. I really like the thematics of an advanced understanding of magic and advanced understanding of science are near interchangeable in this world. I like that as a thematic edge. And so I don't like that bit of rules in the archaic trait because I feel like it goes against what I'd want to do with a mixed setting.
Mm-hmm. Nikolaj says the futuristic armor suits in Starfinder are much better than the crappy old armor from Pathfinder. They probably have built-in force field tech, much more resilient materials, hazmat protection. Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, wonder why. I mean, there's a reason why the society moves on to laser guns and automatic weapons.
I also think that. But if we're talking about, my armor also has repulsor fields and all that stuff. It's just that it's called armor potency rune.
Yeah,
like,
and it's kind of like should this just trump? Yeah, there's an issue too of like technology wins over magic too. Going on
and I don't like the idea that technology is strictly better than magic.
in this instance, yeah.
Because you want the games to cross-compatible. I want them to fully cross-compatible. And I think even if we have to sacrifice a bit of flavor, I think that would be worth it. And also, they now have, like, they can make the power armor special by giving them unique activations that they could never really justify on a magic item. And by giving tech, like, interesting active abilities.
Yeah, I was going to say
magic
that. Yeah,
runes, which are very passive.
Yeah.
So I think there's design space within the system so that they don't need to go for something as ham-fisted as just, oh, this has resistance 10 against a trait. And this is one of my 2 complaints.
Okay.
Do not get this overblown. I still love this. 98% satisfaction. Just that's my issue.
It went back up to 99?
Well, it was at 99 at first because I knew this was going to be a problem as soon as we got to it.
Yeah.
I then docked it down to 98 because of how they worded capacity.
Okay. So this is like an A- from you.
Oh, 98 is still an A+ range. It's just on the border.
Okay. All right. Concussive. Seems to be how it works in Guns and Gears. So
It's the same.
yeah, basically you treat for purposes of resistances and immunities. You get to treat your weapon as bludgeoning and piercing, and get to choose the one that's your advantage. Actually, what about weaknesses? How do weaknesses interact with concussive?
They didn't.
Oh, interesting. All right, so I just learned something. Okay. Tech. Weapons with the tech trait incorporate electronics, computer systems, and power sources. Sometimes the weapons use such little energy that they can rely on integrated power sources, such as melee weapons that don't have a capacity. Starfinder 1 has powered melee weapons, by the way, which is cool.
Yeah, and I also seen like other like sci-fi media, people will have like laser swords because it's cool.
Others drain batteries with attacks. Weapon runes don't function on these weapons. So they're going to have their own way of improving these things, including upgrades as part of the skill tree of weapons, right? As opposed to
Turn your
runes.
old iPhone, buy the new one.
Yeah, buy the new iPhone. Put on weapon grade, the weapon upgrades, and then also another thing we're seeing that's unique here is about the weapons is that you have something to track. I tend to not like things to track. However, it is thematic to have a battery draining. I
don't think it'll be that much like of an issue as long as there are perfectly valid options that don't involve recharging. And if after you do like 3 swings, it's then like, okay, now I need to spend action interacting reload.
Okay.
Get a new cartridge out, slam it in.
Yeah.
Because like I think the idea of a melee character that has to reload is actually really interesting in Pathfinder's game system.
This does make me feel like
that's cool.
This does make me feel like if you have capacity in your weapon, you don't need to do an action to
I agree.
shot.
It never says you need to spend action in how capacity is worded here, and it says it's different from Guns and Gears. So I think you don't need to spend action as long as it's within capacity.
Yeah, because you're already tracking. You're already ticking down something at the table.
And then I think that with magazines, you then have to do the 3 actions to swap them out or whatever.
Okay, tracking. Though that would make it operate differently from how reload currently works that we're used to, because you don't have to track taking out the next crossbow bolt.
I challenge you, look up the repeating trait.
Oh, this is not okay. I don't.
It is currently only exists on advanced weapons.
I don't reject what you just said. I just don't want us to get sidetracked on this stream.
It basically works exactly the way capacity works here. I don't know why they can't just use the repeating trait.
Yes.
And
they can
reword
just refer
the repeating trait, because repeating also already has an entry in the reload value worded right there. I think they should just use repeating. We have a word for it.
Okay. Tracking gives you plus X on your attack rolls, and we also know it affects area effects, which caused me to make a mistake. Anyway, it's a little weird that it's nested within these activities that they benefit from tracking also. I wonder there's going to be future area effects that don't benefit from tracking. If not, though...
They wouldn't be basic actions, though. These are the basic actions of the weapon.
Yeah. Unwieldy. Weapons are these are large and awkward. You cannot fire more than once per round with them. And you cannot use
no reaction
them
attacks
for reactions. The critical specialization effects we went over.
Yep.
And then we go over specific weapons. We're getting flavor on them. Laser pistol, scattergun are the simple ones, and martial ones are rotolaser and stellar cannon. There is a big divide between simple and martial here. There's a lot less damage for the simple ones.
I mean, it's 1 damage die tier, which is the same as it is in Pathfinder.
And what, 1d6 versus 1d10?
I mean, if you're looking at two-handed weapons, I mean, yeah, because one deals with two-handed spear.
You know what? I'm just kind of focused on the damage. The thing is, we're not seeing the weapon traits from 2E here. We're that kind of gives some more diversity. We're seeing kind of basic stuff that's more fundamental in these traits.
Yeah, so and also with the scattergun, I think the scattergun is just really undertuned because its range is 15. I think that might have been there before they realized, oh, let's have the cone be half range increment, because I don't think we have rules for a 7.5 foot cone.
No, that's how automatic works. It's half the range increment. Whereas for the cone, for area ones, you use the full range increment.
Okay, so it's full range increment. So for area...
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So 15-foot cone, they might also want to, like, avoid big area blasts being done by simple weapon users.
Mm-hmm. I do have to say... Oh.
Sure. I'm fine with that. Like...
my one concern about having the way weapons are as you level up is that it's gonna mean 7 lines for each weapon, because you need.
I do think that
that's gonna mean less space to have lots of cool ideas. And in the supplement books, like the Armory book, there's just a lot of cool stuff in Starfinder 1, and we would be kind of denied that stuff in the core rulebook if they go that route. Okay. Credits and currency. Basically, 10 credits equals 1 gold. And it talks about you can have cred sticks, and that there's you can have lots of money in the bank, and your cred sticks are just like the gold you wear on your person. You can have multiple cred sticks, and you can easily move the funds between sticks. So just think of it as a mutable thing that you hold, like dollar bills.
Yeah,
but it's a credit card. Literally a credit card. Yeah,
you tap
but
on
not
something.
linked to a bank. Like they can steal your cred stick and insert it into a machine, and they have your money.
It's a prepaid card.
Yeah, there you go. It's a gift card.
Yeah, you just exchange gift cards, but to yourself.
Yeah, it's like the Death Mart gift card. To get
it's
more
what
weapons.
You put in your PayPal account. Then you have your PayPal stick that you slap on something.
Okay, cool. Computer glitch gremlin. Cool. I love the artwork.
Yep.
This is cool. I love that thing for eyes. They can sense technology. So things with this tech trait, they can sense. They don't say whether it's precise or imprecise, which I think is a mistake, because Pathfinder 2E went through a lot of labor to make those useful gameable terms. Digital telepathy, they can communicate telepathically with digital devices and with other creatures that can do so, such as other glitch gremlins. This allows the glitch gremlin to attempt computers checks to access any computer within the telepathy's range. So accessing computers and hacking is a whole rules subsystem of Starfinder First Edition that this apparently interacts with. I think it's funny, by the way, gremlin in my brain, honestly, I read this as goblin in my mind, but it's gremlin. And gremlin, the origin of the word gremlin is like has to do with like tech bugs, I think.
It has to do with things being moved around, small little pranks,
Yeah, and the thing I just said wasn't true. Where am I getting this idea? But yeah, mythical things that kind of that sabotage. You blame them, basically.
And
something goes wrong.
Key rings actually came from like a lot of those stories about the Fae creatures coming in playing pranks on you. So that's why a lot of them have weaknesses to cold iron now. Because you'd make big key rings that the Fae couldn't move your keys around, and thus they'd be right where you left them. When really the key ring just kept them all together so you could find them easier.
Lots of different weaknesses and resistances, making them more interesting to
fight.
I
also think that I like that because I'm also noticing that on all the creatures that we've seen so far, they've had a resistance or weakness or both. So if they're going to be making weakness and resistance more common, that's a buff to casters, and Paizo doesn't hate you.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked, does digital telepathy let you communicate with a glitch gremlin even if you don't share a language? Well, they have common. And it does...
Probably.
This doesn't refer to languages. Apparently, it's the computer language.
Yeah, it's computers.
But if two creatures have glitch digital telepathy, they can communicate with each other. So it's like the computer language, whatever that is. Okay, glitch aura. Creatures and items with the tech trait within 20 feet must do a will save. No. They struggle to function reliably. Creatures with the tech trait, unattended items with the tech trait, or creatures holding equipment with the tech trait start their turn in the aura must do a will save. So your robot, your person wielding a tech gun, the computer that this glitch gremlin walks past must do a will save. And critical success makes you immune. Regular success does not. You'll have to save every turn. Glitching 1, here's our new condition. And it has a number using Pathfinder 2E's use of numbers and conditions.
Yep.
Glitching is a condition that affects objects or creatures with the tech trait, and it always includes a value. A glitching thing experiences a combination of debilitating effects and moments of seizing up. If you have glitching equipment to take any action involving it, you must do a DC 10 flat check to see what occurs. If you have the glitching condition on yourself, you must make this check at the beginning of every round. Probably should say every turn of your turn.
Yeah.
So critical success reduces the value. So you need a nat 20 to get rid of this. A success, you get to do what you wanted to. Failure, you take an item penalty and all your checks and DCs equal to your glitching value, or the glitching value on the item you're attempting to use. That's nice. It doesn't say you fail and you suck and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Critical failure, you are stunned 1 for the round. Alternatively, the object you try to use does not function and you lose the actions you took to attempt to use it. Now, this goes to my question that I've had about the stunned condition that I was going to make one of my videos about because people were yelling. Ronald the Rules Lawyer has a queue of videos that he's wanted to do, and this goes back to when I did the psychic video, and Carrie got stunned from one of her feats, or I commented on this feat that makes you stunned during your turn, and I criticized that language because it ends your turn, because it says you cannot take actions. And then a lot of my comments were saying, you're stupid, you're wrong. It only affects the number of actions you gain. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it says you can't act. And blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I was going to have a video ranting about that. So they are acting like the language is completely clear because you become stunned 1 for the round. What does that, that means you can act. It sounds like it's meant to be a 1-action tax.
I think that it should just be at start of turn and just makes you stunned 1. And they just drop the 4th round verbiage. That would make it clear.
Yeah, and then clarify separately whether it ends your turn.
And also I have another thing that I'd like to see. And the DC is DC 10 flat check. I think it should be DC 9 plus your glitch value. Because think that if you're a higher value of glitching, you should be more likely to glitch.
I wonder if there'll be classes that'll be better at preventing this. Have a lower
Probably.
DC.
I bet any Technomancer would, or a lot of the robot ancestries will have feats in there that say reduce the DC of glitching by 2 or whatever.
Yeah, I do like how it is. Not fuck you. You still get to do it.
You get a little penalty for the round if you're tech or whatever. And this can only be used on people that are using tech. So that means if you're worried about glitches, you could play a character that's concerned about this type of thing and then goes for only analog, despite analogs being a little bit weaker or whatever.
We get hints of new Starfinder spells. One is delete. I love that
Yeah.
name as a spell.
It's a first level spell. What are they going to do with a first level spell titled delete?
Oh, wait, you know what? This tells me. I had this question. I meant to say this at in this stream, but I was wondering, because of the positive reception to the Kineticist, is some of the design limitations of having traditional Vancian spellcasters like wizards, how it kind of, you want them to be generalists, and Kineticists managed to give that spellcaster feel without opening a whole gamut of spells and having that huge ability to kind of do anything. That I was wondering if the spellcasting classes from Starfinder 1, the Mystic and the Technomancer, whether they might go that route, because they don't have the same traditions in the hobby that wizards and clerics do. However, if there are spells that are named delete and recharge weapon, that does make me think they are going to still have spell slots.
And these are primal spells, I should mention. So these are part of the 4 traditions.
Yep, the 4 traditions will continue after the gap.
Mind you, this is not confirmation of anything, because 1, not even a playtest document. 2, there are several cases of creatures having innate spells that don't match the key tradition. Big example of this is how Fae could have primal spellcasting that would then have charms.
I will say, though,
primal identity.
If Pathfinder goes the route of the Kineticist with a Mystic and Technomancer, I will be excited. I will not protest that. These guys climb. That's funny.
I think all spellcasters should act like Kineticists, and that's my hot take. I don't like spell slots, just in general.
Unstable Spark. They get to flick electricity at you. Thunderstrike. That's from the Pathfinder Remaster preview. So is Figment. Oh, and Electric Arc will continue, which will probably be a 2d4.
Yep.
Okay. Next is the Laser Wolf. This is our Kung Fury, but it's not a raptor, it's a wolf.
Yeah.
They originated from Castrovel. That's Venus in the campaign setting. It's entirely possible to include a portal to Castrovel that allows for the migration of a pack of Tashtaris into a region. Cool. Then Tashtari. So it all looks pretty straightforward. This looks like the wolf, except that they have this, the bristle flash. Well, they have the ranged muzzle beam. So it goes out of their mouth. They just open their mouth. Bristle flash. The Tashtari causes its filaments. Oh, it does persistent fire. Oh. Bristle flash causes its filaments to glow with intense light. Non-Tashtaris within a 40-foot emanation must do a fort save. They become dazzled. If they succeed, it's for 1 round. They cannot do it. It only affects people for 1 minute. Okay, so 12 Tashtaris and you come up to you. You only have to make 1 save the whole fight.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. It has to bask in sunlight for 10 minutes to do it again. And it makes its fur not glow. This is some cool flavor. Okay. Yeah. Tashtari Alpha is the same.
I should also mention that it has the new knockdown, which requires it to make the athletics check to trip you. And a +9 athletics, so it's more of a sniper type creature that's going to be running around using its ranged attack. That has a melee activity that can knock you down and let it get away.
Okay.
With its high move speed. So its goal is to be annoying hit and run. Which, I like that.
There's a point I forgot to say. Well, I kind of implied it. The fact that these spells exist does not rule out them redoing Mystic and Technomancer, because this is just, things are subject to change, as they said on page 1. Okay. Yeah. Tashtari Alpha.
But I would be surprised if we did not get tech-oriented spells, because the games are cross-compatible, and the wizard should be able to affect technology.
Yep. Okay, they get Bristle Flash also, but they also have Solar Cry, which is 2 actions. A searing rainbow erupts from its mouth. A rainbow mouth attack. As it throws back its head to unleash a powerful muzzle beam that soars into the sky. This is very dramatic. It splits into countless rays of multicolored light that crash down in every direction, dealing 4d6 fire damage to each non-Tashtari in a 20-foot emanation. A creature that critically fails is dazzled for a minute. Other Tashtaris in the area recharge their daily use of Bristle Flash, so they all start to glow. Though you're only probably saving once against this. Against that.
Yeah.
And it has to bask for 1 hour. That's
Okay.
our field test, folks. And it's field test number 1. I wonder when we'll get the next one. Overall thoughts, and I'm gonna look at chat. What? Someone says they have 3 legs.
Oh, we actually have the person that wrote the Tashtari in chat.
Cool. Welcome, person who wrote Tashtari.
But yeah, no, I really like creatures that do interesting things with Pathfinder's action economy. And that definitely hits that niche because, like, I think that creatures that use the base actions in interesting ways are my favorite types of creatures.
Uh-huh.
Because, like, in my opinion, my favorite type of encounter is the troll. Because it uses all the base mechanics, but just, like, in a way that makes people think. And it's very simple and elegant in its design, so...
Wait, using the base mechanics? Are you talking about
in
knockdown?
an interesting way. Yeah, I'm talking about knockdown with a move speed, a climb speed, and a range attack.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pretty simple mechanics, but I can see how they can flow together to make a really, really interesting fight.
Okay, Dustin Knight from chat wrote it. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, this looks cool. Someone said 3 legs. Is that just because the artwork was... Or does it really have 3 legs?
No, you can, like, take a look at it. It's very clearly 3 legs.
I know, but I just did a Control F for legs. I would think it would have mentioned that. I think it's just Photoshop gone wrong, maybe. I don't know.
No, I mean...
Someone mentions the Witch Warper, which is a class that came later in Starfinder 1, and Precog.
Mm-hmm. And why should the PF2 wizard be able to affect technology? Because, like, if I'm going to play a wizard in a Starfinder game because they're cross-compatible, I want my wizard to be able to interact with the cool parts of the setting. And the cool parts of the setting is technology. Like, the fighters can interact with the technology via their cyber weapons or cyber armor. The wizard should be able to interact with it via their magic because that's how they interact with the world. So, that's my opinion.
I guess
Yeah,
idea
we
2 is that they're
3 legs.
intelligence-based and study.
We also have confirmation the mini will have 3 legs.
It is 3 legs? Awesome.
Yeah, the
I want to
mini
tell
will have 3 legs.
Dustin that this rainbow mouth pointed toward the sky is very dramatic. I fully endorse it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it does have 3 legs. Interesting. Though I think that's not in nature for reasons.
Yeah.
But it's still cool. Not everything in fantasy has to be
Feels like
biological.
sci-fi
Like
magic.
dragons that
Yeah.
breathe fire is kind of biologically impossible too.
There are some creatures that can do something similar by, like, chemicals and whatever, but... And also my cat is now here. Everybody can say hi.
Oh, hello. Yay. Well, there could be rare spells in
Yeah,
the
and I
Starfinder
think
book.
there'll be... Like, I think that it's a good idea to let the other classes be playable between both systems in some regard.
This will be an interesting topic in future field tests, just kind of how does magic... Like, we just came up
Yeah.
against this tension when talking about the archaic trait. But you want things on the one hand, when magic meets sci-fi, you want it to still be gameable. You don't want to
Yes.
have feels bad moments. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you do want them to have their own unique mechanics. Like
Yeah.
something like maybe the wizard's like lightning bolt will cause the robot to glitch or short or something. Just because of something in the rules because it's or it has anyway. I'm just going to point that out. But seeing how they're going to need to make it work within the logic of each of these two systems, but also work together. And not make everything just like, this.
I would much rather have.
You want to have distinctions, but also have balance.
And I think that, like, with the different way they're doing weapons, with the weapons actually, like, upgrading different parts of them, the different ways to do augments and things, I think the weapons are significantly different. We haven't seen what they're planning to do with the armor, but I sincerely hope that the 10 resistance, because, like, I don't know what the overall design is. Because, like, I hope there's something to draw back that 10 resistance, or there's more clarity on if creatures are considered to have archaic things. Because I can see that being a problem for a game that's trying to mix the fantasy and sci-fi together. I think that's naturally the coolest thing you can do with them being cross-compatible. And so I would like that to be as seamless as possible, even if it means losing a little bit of flavor.
Yeah. I think a future field test that would be cool is a lot of Pathfinder players don't even check out Starfinder because it's like, they're interested in fantasy or whatever. And also, second edition, it's just 3-action economy, all that. But for a future field test to try to generate excitement, I think is to show people like what you can do with cybernetic enhancements, weapon upgrades, like what you can add to weapons.
And I think cybernetics will need to be different from magical tattoos. And that's where they need to make their distinction from Pathfinder.
All right, let's hang out for a few more minutes, but I just want to find a couple cool things from Starfinder 1 for people who are not familiar with Starfinder.
Yeah. Also reading chat, people are talking about wizards affecting things. I think that, like, if I'm sitting down to play Starfinder and I want to play a castery character, I think that I should still be able to interact with technology, at least in some regard, if I'm prepping spells for it. Because, like, that is a cost. That's a legitimate cost, like, prepping a spell. Because, like, if I'm playing a bard, I have to... Well, I won't be able to use magic weapon for my early encounters. Because all of the fancy weapons cannot take runes. And magic weapon applies runes. So, magic weapon becomes enabled. It becomes disabled in Starfinder games. Just period. So I think that because certain spells will just, like, not work, there should be something to counteract,
All right, I'm just showing something from the Starship Operations Manual. But in Starfinder, for all of you D&D migrants, Starfinder is going to have stats and rules for ship combat!
Wait. I'm sorry to harp on it, but I'm just going to go quickly look at a Ghost Commoner. Because if you look at their resistance, they have resistance all damage 5 and double resistance versus non-magical. So if you have a +1 greatsword, you have an easier time hitting a ghost than a guy in the power armor. I don't know. I'm a little off-put by that. That puts me off a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like people who wield the greatsword want to kick ass, and not be...
Yes, and I think that...
They want to be... And they're not going to be aiming at your armor. They're going to aim at your head!
Yeah! Like, I don't know. I think that, like... if you have a magical weapon, I think it should be able to do stuff against the tech armor. I'm fine with having, like, resistance 10 against non-magical weaponry. But, like, if magic and technology do not mix in, like, putting them on the same weapons, magic should have some kind of counterplay against the armor in the story. Simply because, like, magic and technology can't mix, so therefore the magic disrupts technology, and, I think that there is a story reason you can justify non-magical things.
Ghosts with power armor. I don't know if that's a joke, but that sounds like a cool idea to me.
Okay, so I think we have a homebrew module we need to write now, okay? Chatter, reveal yourself again.
All right, so anyway, look at this big-ass starship. I don't know if you're familiar with the huge amount of anger about Spelljammer, Sean, last year. But there's like no rules for spaceship combat in it, and um, there's a lot of other problems. But yeah, there's rules for starship combat, and there's this book called Starship Operations Manual that gives you a lot more ways to build ships. I just want to say there are capital weapons. Look at that. Look at these names. Extreme Force Ramming Prow.
Book once. I'm now remembering. It gave me a headache and I put it away.
Okay, yeah, because Sean does not like 1E Pathfinder, and
1E makes my head spin.
Yeah,
and like, I never got into it, so I never really got to dig deep into the character creation.
But I'll just point out how magic makes this is just how it's not pure sci-fi, folks. There's something called prismatic beam firing from a ship, shadow bolt array, star spear rail launcher, super buster cannon, super orbital death knell. This is just going to be really anyway. There's just a lot of fun ideas. And then we have spinal mount weapons, which are bigger than capital weapons.
Ron, the new spirit damage could bypass the power armor and hit the ghost directly.
Okay, and here it is. Summon planetoid module. Module! It's a module. It's like, plugged in. Orbital
I like
Devastator.
how the ship damage is just multiplied by 10 because, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just going to put on the screen. I look forward to seeing a starship combat system that's less difficult to run than what we got. I assume you looked at that section.
I looked at that section because I was going to actually just like modify Pathfinder 2 to play a space game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to steal like a lot of the ship rules from Starfinder 1, but just like tweak Pathfinder 2 to be able to just like hack it to be able to run a sci-fi game.
Yeah.
Now I don't need to.
Yeah.
Just because I really, really like Pathfinder 2's tactical combat engine.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. There was maneuvers your ship could do that the pilot would make checks against.
Also, Ron, I also have been talking to a couple people, and we have discussed different archetypes that would be good in the Starfinder character. So I just want to mention that trick driver dedication is a thing that exists.
Uh-huh.
And it just talks about piloting any vehicle.
Oh, okay.
So there are already archetypes in Pathfinder that would be really, really good in Starfinder.
Mm-hmm. And
also the siege weapon archetype will suddenly be a lot better if the ship weapons are stat blocked out like siege weapons.
Mm-hmm. But I assume we'll have some of the complexity involved in like moving your ship and having arcs and weapons mounted on the left side versus the right side versus a turret in the middle. And, if you win initiative, you get to be last in acting and piloting your ship so that you can adjust to what the others do.
So you can react better? That's cool.
Yeah. What I think we'll definitely see is a move away from the ways to you advance your ships basically by changing its math, which is very 1E type of thinking. Building starships. So you would have, buy a power core that just, costs a certain amount of BP, and it would give you a certain amount of energy, and then you use your energy budget to...
And then that would be a point buy system where it would also have gold or credit cost, my bad.
And I just feel like I don't want to do a spreadsheet. I would just rather, pick cool power, like the way you choose class feats. And
I think that you should just say, like...
Two.
I think that instead of being, like, class feats, I think it should be more like how weapons work and armor work in Pathfinder 2 currently, where you have your things that boost the numbers, and then you can then, as you upgrade, unlock more and more properties that you can put onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way you can describe it as, like, an extreme quality skirmishing fire blaster, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, because we already have like a system like that, and it feels cool to customize things in that way, and then you just need to balance each property rune compared to each other, and yeah, there are fewer dials to turn, but it's also a lot less to manage.
Mm-hmm. So this is the problem talked about earlier. See, you have to have like 5 versions of every single weapon, and you have only under laser you only have one room for one thing called laser pistol.
Yeah.
And then for armor, you see the charts here. They also have
Yeah.
powered armor, which had upgrade slots. Well, anyway, I have nothing else to say. Just showing people like
Yeah. I saw that Starfinder Ship Rules had a lot of stuff going on and it looked really interesting. We were just going to hack a simpler version of it because like Ship Combat wasn't going to be a big part of that game. Fell apart after a few sessions because that's how games go.
Yeah. Okay. What I found, Patrick Chapman, who says building a starship is not that hard, was my I just had one person who really studied the rules a lot and just put their money into certain things and completely trivialized what was supposed to be a challenging starship fight. It was like a snooze fest. I had that to happen too. So you had all this they just built it right. Yeah.
And to me, I think that immersion doesn't really matter as much as I want the game to be fun and tactical. Because, like, that's why I come to Pathfinder. Because, like, if I wanted to have more of an immersive gaming experience, I'd play something more rules light. So that way, the story of what's going on has more impact on the effects. When I come to a game like Starfinder or Pathfinder, it's because I explicitly want to make the hard tactical choices based on the game. And so I don't want to compromise the game for whatever. I think the game should be like the center, and if it doesn't run well at the table, it's not going to be my thing that I like. Because my preference, this is a personal preference thing, is what brought me over to Pathfinder like the most is difficult decisions to be making very consistently a lot of the time that have hard-coded upsides and downsides that you would pick between. And so I came here because I wanted to pick what am I going to do to have the best time here in this combat encounter or this downtime to get this information here. What am I going to choose to do? And that's what really drew me to the system. Where if I want flavor to matter more, I'd jump into something like Dungeon World or Masks and then have a great time over there too. Because then I can say, well, because my superhero guy has super strength, I'm going to attempt to lift this car. And then we have everything unfold because of what makes sense for the genre. So it's a different type of experience for each game. And so I like the tactical approach of these games. I'm talking about liking the base rules. I do agree that describing stuff makes it better. Especially if the descriptions get very wacky, trying to justify the rules of the game. Because that's the whole reason I play so many wrestlers.
Okay. I'm not sure what else to we have very limited info. We only have a field test, which is not a play test, which is more like of a hype thing, and getting feedback, reactions, and encouraging, giving us enough that we can have a soldier on our own games and see how it works.
Yep.
But yeah, overall, I'm just I really like the fact that we can now say not only does Pathfinder, for the majority of TTRPG players who have D&D 5e, has certain advantages with character customization and 3-action economy. We can say that there's this cool space where you can mix science with fantasy. There's just a lot of really fun, makes you cackle with glee kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
you can insert in. Yeah.
Also,
more
I'm going
identity.
to go back to the archaic trade in one other place, and I think that archaic's design makes sense if it's supposed to discourage people from playing the archaic weapons. Like that, what it does is it makes people not want to use the traditional weaponry in the sci-fi game.
If you're in that,
to make them interact with the sci-fi.
Yeah, if you're in that environment, right? It makes sense in a Starfinder campaign.
It does. However, I don't like it because it cuts off a lot of things. And I think that you can just reflavor some of your great swords to just be like a high frequency blade, like in Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance and stuff like that. You know?
I just wonder if there's something that isn't so universal and damning that could be
Yeah,
done.
like I think that it should be against non-magic archaic weapons, if anything.
Okay, well, I'll let people continue the conversations in the comments, because I think we've done what the stream needs to do.
Or over in the Discord server. Which,
Oh, yes.
there's
Oh yeah,
a link below.
let's do our
I'm gonna post
outro.
that.
We should create a Starfinder channel, Sean.
Already ahead of you.
Oh, awesome! I
We
told
did
you.
it since it was announced. We changed Pathfinder 2E's grouping to be Paizo 2E because it's all compatible.
Wait, but some people who want to talk about Starfinder will. I don't know. We'll talk about it
it's
as
the Paizo
mods.
channel.
However, the Discord is the place to be to continue. Great community there. And we already have been successfully organizing Pathfinder 2E meetups and play, and we'll eventually be a Starfinder 2E place for that. And everyone subscribe to both of our channels. SwingRipper is going to hit that 1,000 with your help, can hit the 1,000, and then we'll be able to do more support for Pathfinder 2E build guides, etc. If you can get that, Paizo partnership threshold. What else? That's it. I'll be continuing my coverage on Starfinder and Pathfinder. And check out my Patreon. That's it. I think we're done.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Awesome. Bye, chat. Bye, everybody.
Bye, chat.